Okay, let's dive into something really central to how JavaScript objects work together. It's maybe not what you expect if you come from, say, Java or C++.
Yeah, definitely. We're talking about how objects inherit features, how they relate, and in JS, it's all about prototypes.
Prototypes,
Hmm.
right? So the basic idea is um, every single object has this kind of hidden connection.
Exactly. It's an internal property, sometimes shown as prototype, and it's simply a link from one object to another object.
And that other object it links to, that's the first object's prototype.
That's it. And it doesn't necessarily stop there.
Ah, right, because that prototype object, it can have its own prototype link, right?
Precisely.
Yeah.
So you get this sequence, this chain of objects linked together. That's what we call the prototype chain.
Like a linked list, basically.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
A linked list of objects where each one potentially delegates to the next one up the chain.
Okay, so if you have this chain, how does JavaScript figure out where a property or a method actually is when you ask for it? Like if I say, my object.do something.
Good question. It's a clear process. First, JavaScript looks directly on my object itself.
Does my object literally contain do something?
Yep. If it finds it right there, perfect. It uses that, and the search is over. Done.
Quick. But what if it's not directly on my object?
Then that prototype link kicks in automatically. JavaScript follows the link to the object's prototype.
And it looks for do something there.
Exactly. It checks that second object in the chain.
Okay, so it's like checking your personal desk first, and if it's not there, you check the main office cabinet.
That's a decent analogy, yeah. And if it's not in the cabinet,
Then you keep going up the chain.
you follow the next prototype link to the next object in the chain,
Mhm.
and you look there. It just keeps climbing that chain.
Until it either finds the property.
Finds it or it runs out of links.
Yeah.
It reaches the very end of the chain.
And the end of the chain is usually what?
Typically, it's the built-in object.prototype. This base object holds common methods like toString or cosInProperty.
Hmm.
Most objects inherit from it eventually.
So if it gets all the way to object.prototype and still doesn't find what it's looking for,
Then the lookup fails, and JavaScript usually gives you undefined.
okay, that chain mechanism makes sense. But how does this connect to, like, constructor functions? You know, function car.
Ah, great connection. It's totally related. When you declare a function like car, JavaScript automatically gives that function object a special property named prototype.
So car.prototype exists just because I defined the function car.
Yes, and critically, car.prototype is just a plain object. You can add properties and methods to it.
And then when you use new, like let my car new car, what happens at the prototype?
That's the crucial step. The new keyword does a few things, but one key part is creating a brand new empty object. And then
Uh-huh.
it sets the internal prototype of that new object, my car, to point directly at car.prototype.
I see. So my car is now linked to car.prototype through its hidden link.
Exactly. Now think about efficiency. If you put a method on car.prototype, say car.prototype.drive, that drive function isn't copied onto every single mycar instance you create.
Oh, right. So if I call my car.drive, JavaScript looks on my car, doesn't find it.
Follows the prototype link to car.prototype, finds drive there, and runs it.
So 100 car objects all share the same drive function living on car.prototype. That saves a lot of memory.
Absolutely. That's the core of prototype-based sharing and inheritance. It's
Yeah.
efficient.
And you mentioned ES6 classes before. Class car drive, is that something totally different? Or
That's the beauty. ES6 classes are, for the most part, syntactic sugar built directly on top of this existing prototype system.
really? So it just looks nicer.
It provides a cleaner, more familiar syntax, especially if you know class-based languages. When you define drive, inside that class car definition,
Let me guess. It actually puts the drive method onto car.prototype behind the scenes.
you got it. It works the exact same way. Using new car with a class sets the instance's prototype to car.prototype, just like with a constructor function.
Wow. So even with modern class syntax, understanding that underlying prototype chain is still, well, it's still fundamental.
It really is. Knowing how that lookup works, where methods actually live, can save you hours of debugging. Trust me.
I believe it. I've definitely been tripped up before by not quite getting where something was inherited from.
It gives you a much deeper understanding when you're designing how your objects should interact, or figuring out why something isn't behaving as you expect.
Okay, so wrapping up. The prototype chain is how JavaScript objects inherit. Methods on a constructor's prototype or defined in an ES6 class are shared efficiently by all instances.
That's the core takeaway. Classes are cleaner syntax, but prototypes are the engine.
So here's something for you to think about. Now that you know the prototype chain is always working under the hood, even with ES6 classes, how does that knowledge change how you might approach debugging tricky inheritance issues, or even how you design the structure of your objects in a complex application?